For me, the value of artistic expression lies in its power to provide us perspective to become others. Since the age of mythology and epic poetry, literary works have enabled us to imagine the lived experience of others who are different from us, and it evokes another life that we could have experienced. Literature can also become a compass to find a way out from our own bubbles. Humans live in an innate filter bubble without even being connected to the internet. Depending on the conditions of our birth and upbringing, the values of the people around us, we can easily live unaware of the diversity of perspectives available to us. I believe that literature allows us to get out of such a bubble imaginatively and creatively, to feel, empathize, and approach the lives of people we have never met. This is why I have been working to create opportunities to gain perspectives to become others, using artistic expression and design methodologies. Let me introduce some of my activities. In the installation work, Last Words, Type Trace, which I created with artist Takumi Endo for the Aichi Triennale 2019, more than 2,000 people answered the question, if you were to disappear from the world in 10 minutes, who would you leave a message for? The text, showing the process of more than 2,000 people who repeatedly stagnate, write and erase, and confront the finitude of their own lives, all resonate directly with the reader like literary works, evoking a life different from the one they have lived. By looking at the dynamic process of writing rather than the static text, there is room to better imagine the intentionality of the writer. Today we are still at the mercy of the power of words, and social networking services seem to be destroying the democratic assumption that we can understand each other if we communicate rationally. Strong voices that incite confrontation and division are gaining more and more influence, and we are frequently unable to understand each other even in situations where we should be able to. On the other hand, why don't we think of ourselves as inherently unable to understand each other? Even if we speak the same language, we cannot understand each other fully. If we think about it that way, I think we can recognize the value of the process of trying to understand each other. Following this idea, I directed the exhibition Translations, Understanding, Misunderstanding, held at 2121 Design Site, where I also took part in the creation of some of the works. In the artist Pei-In Lin's video work, Unspeakableness, Personalized Language, she asked multilingual people to mix up all the languages they speak to write a text using the words they like best in each language and read it out loud. I participated in her work and read out the director's message for the exhibition in my own French, Japanese, English, and Chinese words. This is a message that can only be understood in its entirety by someone who understands all these languages. But the text is much more nuanced and expansive than if I had written it in only one language.
Normalement, quand on parle de la traduction, we refer to a situation in which le langage de kakareta, spoken words, ou dans d'autres langages ni transform. However, 一つの langageで言葉を発する process itself can be considered une sorte de traduction.
And in Found in Translation, an installation work I created in collaboration with Google Creative Lab and Studio The Green Isle. We designed an experience that allows visitors to experience the algorithmic world of Google Translate and be showered with multiple languages. Normally, machine translation is used for one-to-one translation, but in this work, when you utter a single word, it is translated into 23 different languages and returned to you as audio.
大切なものを大事にする。
Take care of what is important.
When looking at a technological advancement, one might think as if all languages would one day become translatable reciprocally. But we should never forget that there are languages in the world that can never be accurately translated, and that our thoughts and perceptions are also diverse thanks to this untranslatability. based on the idea of linguistic relativism, which states that each language has its own way of perceiving the world. This work makes you realize that your words are potentially connected to a multitude of different languages around the world, but at the same time, each language has its own world, or Umwelt. I am also working to communicate with non-human beings. I like to grow fermented foods, and I want to know how the fermenting microorganisms feel. So I am researching and developing a robot called NukaBot that translates their status into human language.
Hey Nuka. 今どんな感じ?
今食べ頃だよ。
An interesting finding of this project is that talking to microbes on a daily basis can increase our attachment to them. The theme of building a relationship of mutual care with the most inscrutable of living organisms, the microbes, can also be a compass for us to break free of our anthropocentrism through our relationship with the Earth's soil, other natural entities, and more than human worlds.